starting with example 1, and step 1 that we need to do is that we should identify the decision variables. We'll always name it as x1 and x2. So here x1 is the units produced by P1, and we will identify x2 as units produced by P2. So in the Excel sheet you will first define P1 and P2, and on the left hand side you just define the word decision variables, and just below P1 and P2 identify x1 and x2. Okay, then you leave one row blank because this is a place where we have to identify the value of x1 and x2 in our Excel sheet. And below this you have to place all the values of x1 and x2. So this is the step 1 that has been done. After that, as mentioned in our example 1, the profits for the product P1 and P2 are 30 and 40 respectively. So just leave one row blank and then identify these values. Okay. Now on the right hand side of this Excel sheet we will identify step 2, and step 2 is that we have to define the optimization function for us, which can be either maximum or minimum. As mentioned in our example 1, we have to calculate profit maximization. Sorry for a spelling mistake. Okay, so this is our profit maximization, which we will calculate later on. And now just below 30 and 40, these two values, we will define all the constraints that we have identified in our question. So we'll name constraints as C1, C2, C3, and so on. So in our case, the constraints, first constraint is that we can only use 3 hours of x1 and 2 hours of x2 for machine M1. This constraint is with respect to machine M1, this constraint is with respect to machine M2, and this constraint is with respect to machine M3. Now, under any given circumstances, we cannot use this machine more than 3 hours for machine M1 to produce P1, and 2 hours of machine M1 in order to make P2. Okay, so and only 600 hours of this machine can be used per day, so less than or equal to 600. Machine M2 takes 3 and 5 respectively. This value should be less than or equal to 800, and 5 and 6 respectively, and it should be used at most 1100 hours a day. So these are the 3 constraints as mentioned in the question. Now, as discussed in class, here we have to define function sum product. So sum product, first we will define these 2 rows, comma, and then the value of x1 and x2. Since this is fixed value, you have to fix it and close the bracket, and now drag it down. So this becomes our constraints. In order to identify profit maximization, we will again use the function sum product of profits, fix it, comma, the values of x1 and x2, fix it, and close the bracket. So all our Excel sheet is set. Now what exactly we need to define is that we will select this value of profit maximization, go to tab data. On the extreme right hand side you will find option solver, click it. don't change anything here because this cell is already selected. We have to do profit maximization, which is same as the things which has been mentioned here. By changing variable cells, which cell we want to identify? We want to identify the value of our decision variables x1 and x2. Subject to the constraints. What are our constraints? Our constraints are mentioned here. You press the button add, select this value 0. This should be less than or equal to, which is already mentioned here, and this value should be less than or equal to 600. So select 600 and then press the button add. Select second value, it should be less than or equal to 800, add. Select third value, it should be less than or equal to 1100. Okay, so all our constraints have been done. We should not deselect this because if there are any non-negative value, it should automatically start neglecting that. And here we should select simplex LP method. Everything is done. Just press the button solve. If your equations are all right, everything is set, you will receive this button and the answer is 7000. So in order to do analysis in your Excel sheet, you should write a statement: we will produce 100 quantities of P1 and P2 respectively for profit maximization $7,000. That's it. Thank you very much.